Hey, what's going on, guys? I just want to talk a little bit more about pre-production and follow up our first video. So one thing we didn't really talk about too much was choosing a producer. Do you need to do that? Should you do that? What does that actually look like? There's obviously several different ways to make an album, and one way is just self-producing it. You know, not everyone, a lot of people have access to be able to record things on their own, and it's great. It's a lot of positives for doing that. However, whenever you're trying to make the best album that you can make, you may not be the right person to produce your own project. You may need somebody on the outside with a different perspective, somebody who has maybe more expertise and more years doing this, and just honestly a higher skill level at producing a project. And that may be the thing that really helps you get your music to the point that you really want to get it to. You may not be there quite yet. You might be there one day, but that would be one thing to really talk about and consider if you're in a band. Getting an outside perspective, somebody that you think could really do a great job on your album. To me, the most important thing a producer can provide to you is they need to be a fan of you and what you're doing. They need to be all in and believe that you're doing something really great, that they think that they actually want to be a part of, and that they want to actually improve everything that you're doing. Don't just go to a studio because you heard this, hey, we're going to go to this studio because our favorite local band's going here, and whoever they have there is recording that. They could do a good job, but you know nothing about them. I mean, they could be great at doing country stuff, and you're a jazz band. That doesn't make sense. Or it might not make sense, let's put it that way. So anyways, do your research and figure out who's an actual music producer and who actually is a fan of you. Then that means reaching out to people via email, DM them on different social media platforms. If their phone number is available, call them, text them, whatever it is. Just reach out to them and have a meeting, talk about what you're trying to do, and see if they're even interested in that. If things seem to make sense where you're both liking what each other are saying and there seems to be some good chemistry there, then that's a good first step to be like, okay, this might be the person I want to work with and do this. And you can look at their credits, look at their history and what they've done, and just kind of be like, I really love the sound of this. It doesn't have to be some huge producer who's done really, really big albums and stuff like that. It can be somebody who's done something smaller if you really like what they're doing, or if they're really, they want to invest the time into you and what you're doing. That's fine. If you can afford to have, a producer with a bigger resume, then go that route. That can be a great option too. So it really just depends on your situation, but bottom line is you're going to have to do some homework and some research on who should be kind of in charge of your project and who's going to really help you get your music to where you want it to be. So to follow up with that, there's actually another thing that we could talk about, and that's hiring an engineer. So nowadays, a producer a lot of time will engineer as well. They'll do both roles. So they'll be not only overseeing the project and helping, make sure we get the best performances, the sounds and stuff like that. They'll also be like, okay, I'm going to run the Pro Tools session. I'm going to engineer, set up microphones. I'll be doing all that stuff as well. That does happen a lot. Or sometimes your producer will actually just have an engineer that they use, and that's their engineer because they don't have to focus on all the tech stuff. And that's really where the value kind of comes in for an engineer, is they worry about, setting up the equipment, what microphones we're going to use, how is all that stuff routed to your DAW, are we using any outboard processing and stuff like that. So, and headphone mixes, all those things, they're in charge of running the session. That's really what the engineer should be doing, and versus the producer, who really should be taking a step back and kind of looking at, okay, I'm looking at this from just, how is this song sounding? Is this song right for them? Are we getting what we need for this album to be the best it can be, or this single to be the best it can be? Whatever it is, they're looking from a, more of like an overall perspective of the whole project. And they're not in the details necessarily, unless they're doing both. Then they have to so they're really doing kind of two jobs in that case. But if you can afford it, then having a producer and an engineer can be very, very beneficial, because the engineer can worry about all the tech stuff, make sure everyone's comfortable with what they're hearing in the in-ears, and make sure we're getting the right sounds and sessions are always set up and ready to go. And the producer can just worry about the performances being good and being what they need to get the songs right. So I guess as I'm talking about this, one more thing to mention that would be really important. If you have already kind of chosen a producer, doing that part together, figuring out your songs and listening to them, that's kind of part of the process as well, really, depending on the producer, and agreeing that, like, yeah, I love the arrangement of this song. I think that key's perfect for your vocals. It's not too high or too low. All those kind of things. That really should be done with a producer, an outside source, if you're going to hire a producer, versus just rolling in and saying, like, all right, here's our songs, we're just going to track them and record them. So anyways, that's what a producer and engineer bring to the table. They can really help elevate your project and make your song the best it can be. Just let the producer focus on the song and the performances, making sure that you guys are really getting exactly what you want, and let the engineer handle the tech stuff. If you have those two people on your team, now you can just worry about performing and playing your songs and enjoying the experience. All right, thanks guys.